Guys, do not adjust your screens or speakers. It really is me live once again. And I am particularly happy to create this topic because it's one of those topics in which I'm actually opening up about a subject that I would have deemed taboo, I guess. And it's because it's one of those things that is just fucking personal and intimate. And I don't think that everybody has a right to access those details about me. But when I think about it, I guess in my journey online, when I do see people that express themselves online about what their experiences was growing up, what they have seen, heard, felt, how they were raised, what their families valued, what was punished, what wasn't, I find that we all, of course, come from such varying backgrounds that I think it's worth it to discuss the very things that I guess either we wish we would have been very better oriented on, or the things that we just should be more open about. And just to avoid disaster here, I'm going to launch my own screen on the computer because I won't be able to look at my phone the whole time. And I just want to make sure that I can see the comments because of my phone. I'm just not a very good reader on my phone, and this also shows me that I don't know how to use my computer. I don't know how to use YouTube on desktop mode, so bear with me. Oh, yep, that's the page that I needed. I tried preparing before I hit stream, but I legit could not find how to make the stream appear on my computer before launching it. So, okay, I think I'm there now. Okay, sweet. So, anyways, this topic for me is a big deal. I would have never discussed it, never would have considered it. I still feel weird, but anyway, I am going to discuss the early days, the earlier memories I have of when I actually reached peak womanhood, which would be when your days of the month strike. And I am absolutely deviating from the original topic that I meant to stream about tonight, but I found that I wasn't really prepared and I didn't want to be scrambling. But interestingly enough, this stream may actually eventually lead up to what I originally meant to stream about. And I'm so glad that someone left me a comment already on the stream because I'm noticing that the comments are not coming up on my computer. So please give me one more second until I can figure out how to see my chat on my computer. Yeah, 1 second. 1 second. I still need one more second. Weird. I'm seeing the chat, but I'm not seeing. Aha! I see you now, Megtao Ghost. Hello. Thank you for taking a part in my stream. And okay, that's pretty relieving. This looks completely different from the last time I used this. But anyway, so yeah, my personal experience with that day of the month was I was 12 years old, and I remember that the first time I ever heard that such a thing would happen, I want to say, what grade was I in? I think I was in third grade, I would say. And because I was in the third grade, that means I would have been 8 years old. And I remember that we took this one class in which they were going over the pad. And I was a little confused because I thought that because I had taken that class, I thought that because I had taken that class and they gave us like a complimentary pad to accompany it, I thought that meant that I needed to wear that from that point on and forever. Hey Holger, nice to see you. I hope that you can stick around for this one because I feel like you might have some things to say on this topic, so I'm eager. But anyways, good to see you. After I took that class, I went home and I showed mom that they had given me that thing and I was going to start to wear it. And she was like, well, Zam, you know that this thing isn't really happening right now, right? So that indicated to me that I had trouble grasping the concept of what that class taught. Because I thought, oh, okay, my thing is going to start bleeding and I have to wear this thing. So I have to just begin to wear this because, oh my God, it's going to happen. Me taking this class is going to somehow stimulate it into happening. But I understood that the teacher was saying this was happening to adult women, but I wasn't very clear on what that meant to me because when I was a kid, for some reason, I had a hard time understanding that I was a kid. And I wonder if that's something that happened to everybody. Like, are you aware when you're a kid that you are being a kid and what it means to be a kid? Or do you feel like, okay, everybody's just tall, some people drive, you don't, they say that's for kids, everything looks smaller, food portions are smaller, clothing is smaller, they have sections in stores where you go to the side where the clothes are bigger, but there's also a kids section. Kids section tend to be brightly colored because it's targeted at you as a kid. And then adult stuff is like a little dead, like not much vivid colors going on, something like that. So to me, hearing that I was going to have that happen to me, it really didn't click very well. Like I was just really lost and confused. Like I completely prepared for the worst after I took that class. I'm not saying that taking that class damaged me in any way, not at all. I really don't remember what I learned. I just remember that day because I was handed the pad and I and some other girls went to the bathroom and put it on. But I feel like mom did go over the fact that I did not actually need to start wearing it. But now I'll finally get to the first day that I actually ever got the thing. I remember when I saw some spots. It was like very like pink, just really light spotting. I was in the bathroom and then my grandma happened to be visiting that weekend when this happened. And I was telling mom, hey mom, I noticed something weird. This just happened. I don't remember this ever happening before. And she's like, oh, okay. I think your days are starting. And I was like, okay, so that means I have to officially start wearing this thing. And she's like, yeah, it's going to get a little heavier. You might feel some discomfort, some pain, moisture, of course. You can expect changes. And she didn't really go over the emotional changes nor how it could affect the way I behave. I don't think that anybody really thinks about that because it affects everybody differently. But I just remember that when I think it lasted for like 3 days, it wasn't something incredibly heavy or anything. I just knew that that was happening. I remember that I told mom after like the third or fourth day that I wasn't seeing blood anymore. I thought that for the rest of my life, that was going to be a thing. Like me starting to wear that little pad, like I had taken in that class, like, let's see, I got my period around 12-ish. So I guess 5 years prior when I took that class, I'm like, okay, so I'm officially in the stage of my life when I have to wear this. But then I remember asking mom, I feel like I don't notice you using this thing. Like I don't see wrappers in the trash can or anything. Are you ashamed of announcing that you're on your day so you throw it away? Anything like that? And she was like, Zam, this doesn't last every day. And then I thought, oh, okay, so when it clears up, I can go back to wearing my underwear without it. And then she was like, well, yeah. Like, the whole point of this is that you're getting rid of something inside of your body that it just takes time. Imagine going to the bathroom to like pee or do the other thing, but this process takes days as opposed to taking a few minutes. The other stuff, this one happens over the course of days. And then I thought, okay, that's bad, that's terrible, that's inconvenient, but whatever. So, as you guys have probably gathered, I was very disoriented with the topic of my period. And it's not that nobody told me about it, nobody warned me about it, nothing like that. It's just that the way I perceived the world as a kid, it's very complicated for me to explain now because I guess the more time that passes, I become more detached from those days. But I just know that when I used to be in school, there were some topics that I just was not understanding. And Ma has told me, Ma was a teacher, she has told me that it's perfectly normal because children have like their own imaginary world that they live in. But I became worried that I did not have, I guess, the common sense that was expected of me with certain things. Because I'll never forget how stupid I felt when I kept wearing my pads even though my period was over. I was unaware that that thing was ending at some point. And I'm not mad at mom, I'm not mad at my teachers, I'm not mad at anybody that I didn't know that. I was just worried about why such a thing took me so long to understand. Or rather, I had to go through the experience to realize that that's the way things are. And I'm glad that I had a good relationship with Ma to where I would always ask her about things. I'll never forget when things were happening with my breasts too. And I was like, Ma, this just showed up. Is this normal? And she was like, yeah, well, you probably have something just kind of like inflammation. Like it happens on your face when you're going through your puberty. Like some people get really bad acne. I had a few like pimples here and there, but it's not like I had a full face of acne. I never had skin problems like that. But those little things, I always wondered why I seemed to struggle big time with anticipating those things and being aware of those things. But I remember exactly where I was living, where I was at, what I was doing. We were watching TV, and all of a sudden I go to the bathroom and I see that red stuff, and that's when I called Ma over, and then she mentioned to Grandma that it had started and that this was my first one. And I wasn't embarrassed or like ashamed of it. I was just a little disappointed because I remember vividly being on the toilet, looking down and going like, this is how this is going to be for the rest of my life. I will never wear like underwear plain again. Like, ugh, how am I going to fit this into my day? Like, this really sucks. Why did no one give me a warning? You cannot give me a warning on something that isn't true. You know, like, no, this is not the way that the rest of your life is going to be. So, yeah, you guys, that was my first period experience. And now I wish to take the topic and expand on it more because I find that the woman's period is a topic that terrifies people and especially men. Some people are okay hearing about it, some people are not. So now I wish to open this segment up by asking, where do your negative thoughts and feelings around that comes from or come from? Is it because you had a sister and you had the misfortune of seeing something in the toilet or seeing something in the trash can that like freaked you out? Do you just not like the way that girls discuss it? Do you find it disgusting, which is weird because I think you guys are the least squeamish creature I can think of. Like, you guys have no trouble touching the goddamn road when you're looking for something under a car and I'm freaking out. I'm like, wash your hands, wear fucking gloves, don't touch the ground, things like that. But for some reason, something like blood, it's like, oh, okay, blood freaks me out. But I'm like, the ground has probably worse things present in it than what my blood may possibly have. So you guys feel free to share with me if you have any personal anecdotes of where those negative thoughts and feelings come from, or if you have heard other people discuss it. Let me know, because I just find it odd that it's something that, especially when you are an adult getting involved with people and you have a girlfriend, you have a wife, you have daughters, this happens to them and you're like avoiding the topic like it's diabolical. I just wish to understand where people's emotions come from when it comes to certain topics. I'm someone who doesn't really get triggered. Like, you can talk to me about murders, rapes, kidnappings, dismemberments, car crashes, air crashes, people set ablaze, poisonings, all those things, and I'm comfortable with that. I find it disturbing and fucked up, but it's not like I need to be protected from that topic. So, what is it like to be an individual who struggles with topics like that? That's what this is about. And if you have an experience in which a topic came up and the way that the other person reacted to it influenced you, I want to understand that too, because I'm someone who it's incredibly difficult for me to say, feed off the energy of somebody else. Like, you can be pissed off, you can be annoyed, you can be angry, you can be stressed, but I'm not going to pick up on that. The other day, I had to perform a job with one of my managers for the first time ever. He was nervous. He wasn't even supposed to be the manager present there, but we had an emergency. He had to be it. I know I was scheduled for it. I showed up to my shift and I said, okay, whatever happens, some stuff is going to go wrong. Some stuff is going to delay us. Some stuff is going to be frustrating. I'm going to remain calm. The person I was working with wasn't able to maintain his composure the entire time. And I pointed it out. I said, hey, no matter what, this is going to get done. We're going to do it to the best of our knowledge. And if we need help, we're going to reach out. But we don't need to be, amplifying the level of stress from this matter. I could have totally fed off his energy and been like, well, yeah, this is absurd. This is ridiculous. We don't have information. We don't have our tools. Our tools are broken. We don't know whom to contact. We don't have any advice. Locally, at store level, whatever. Like, I could have freaked the fuck out like he did. But in that moment in time, I said, I literally need to be the leader in this situation, even though I am actually not in the position of being the leader. But that's what I mean. If you ever experienced something like that, to where this topic came up and you just somehow fed off the energy of this person, like, girls don't usually talk about their periods peacefully or calmly. It's always about, I'm on my days and it sucks and it stinks and now I'm the kind of person who I give people a warning, like, hello, honorable supervisor. You can anticipate that I am going to be going to the bathroom more than normal. I usually need to go to the bathroom once in my shift. You may anticipate me going 2 to 3 times. And I'm going through something that I'm condemned to until around age 50. So when a sister says she needs to go to the bathroom, you say, honey, take your time. Are we clear? And then if they're not clear, all I do is reach into my pocket, whip out my instrument, and be like, this is why. And leave it at that. So anyways, you guys, now that I have left that little bit of a preamble, I'm going to read what some of you guys are saying in the comments, because I feel bad that it's taken me a minute to get there, but I just didn't want to lose my train of thought. I always have something to say about everything. It is so good to have something to say about everything, because unfortunately, I have met people who, I don't want to say that I'm the smartest, brightest in the room, but I have found that a lot of people tend to have trouble coming up with things to say. And I don't mean coming up with things to say in general. It's like you can have something to say, but deviate from the topic. I mean, something that will aid the flow of the topic. Go deeper. Don't be afraid to explore more, be curious, layer on it. Some people, it's like, okay, you say one thing, they may add a little bit to it, and then it's like they cannot focus on the topic. They have to mention something else or something distracts them. I don't know if they genuinely have focus issues or what it is, but to me, it's frustrating that I think we have a very compelling topic and you just cannot stick to it. And it's something that I'm learning to be patient with people about. It's like, okay, the shit that I find interesting is not the shit that you're going to find interesting. But if you find someone who's willing to discuss a topic that you don't discuss often, hold on to that person, because someday you're going to wish that you had somebody to discuss that very thing with, and you're not going to have a person immediately available. So just relish the challenge. If it's a topic that goes out of your comfort zone, just embrace it, okay? So I'm glad that I have people like Holger around. And thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. I saw your comment on my, was it my video before this stream? I think so. Anyway, in which you felt happy to hear that my first attempt was correct with your name all them years ago. I mean, I understand that it's like, is it a Danish name? I think you said it was Danish. Clearly I don't know anything about places like that, okay? Like, English is like my comfort zone, and I did take some classes for like French and whatnot, but languages like that, it's like, no, give me English. It's my better language, best language. Leave it at that, my comfort zone. But when I see your name, Holger, it just sounds silly to say Holger, but then I know that there is such thing as the G having that kind of a sound, but it just looks like a name that needs like a more solidified syllable, like say Holger. To me, the ger, saying ger, it just doesn't make sense. And that's why I guess my instinct was to just read it as a stronger G as opposed to like the J sound to it. I just cannot fathom a world in which I would give that a J sound. But at the same time, I know that English is not very consistent with those sounds. But I don't know, it just looked like the whole ger part. And I wish I could explain how I instinctively went for it in that manner. But I don't know, it just looks obvious, but I know that it cannot be obvious if it's like a name that's not really popular around here. But yeah, yeah. You ladies have it rough dealing with that. I feel bad for you. I think I made a video a long time ago expressing the drama that accompanies the period that I think is unnecessary. So I'm going to try to present my perspective, perhaps again, because I think I have so many videos on the channel now that I'm genuinely having trouble remembering what it is that I have expressed and what I have not. And at the same time, views may evolve ever so slightly as time passes, so why not? But that period is not as bad as people portray it. But I am not trying to dismiss other women's experiences, because I understand that genetics play a part in what kind of experience you're going to have with this thing, but also lifestyle has a lot to do with it as well. Me personally, I am predisposed to having good times with my period the older I get. But when I was young, like say teens, up until I want to say maybe age 20, 21, it really sucked for me to have my period. And it was so bad that I was actually not able to finish some of my shifts. I would just legit be in so much pain that I had to be driven home. But I think that it may be the result of some health issues that appeared when I was a teen that I was never able to follow up on. And maybe there's this particular matter that I'm aware of that I have that is possibly getting worse. But maybe there's another one that could be in the making, and my lifestyle choices have been able to delay it some. To give an example, when I ovulate, I feel pain in my left ovary. And it's because when I was 17, they found that I had a cyst. Cysts are normal parts of periods. I believe that they actually always happen when you get a period. But sometimes there are some cysts that like to hang out and linger even when your days are over. And me personally, ever since I want to say 19, when I move my left leg in a certain way, I can actually feel something. I can feel what feels like, the best way I can describe it is kind of like a pebble, just kind of lodged there, that you try to like karate chop through it and you just can't. It just doesn't go anywhere. That is, if I could go to the doctor for any reason, I think I would check up on that before other issues that maybe you guys who are eagle-eyed may have noticed about me physically, that I don't think I have ever discussed on the channel. But that one worries me the most because sometimes it messes up my stomach, it messes up my digestion, my appetite, and I guess my hormone balancing as well. I have issues with my hair just excessively shedding, but I also know that I happen to have thick hair, so some of that hair has to go somewhere. But there are spots where my hair is actually thinning, and I am not genetically predisposed to my hair thinning. That needs attention. And there's some other things, some other details going on in my body that I do not really wish to disclose. You just have to trust me that the matter is there. But I am aware that the problem stems from like endocrine system type of thing. But the other thing that I can say about my period is that when I eat mindlessly and without any kind of caution during it, that's when I tend to suffer. I must absolutely stay away from like excessive sweets, excessive greasy stuff. Fried stuff is an absolute no. Like the moment I eat something that's fried, give it about an hour or 2 hours, my cramps are going to be super bad. And it makes sense because those are foods that are causing inflammation. Your period is already like making you predisposed to inflammation. You are layering the problem. So when I used to eat religiously well, that's when I saw the changes. That's when I thought, wow, I actually had this period. I didn't have any pain. I didn't have like trouble regulating my body temperature. Sometimes my period makes me feel either super fucking hot or super cold to where you can touch me and I'm a block of ice. Usually my chest area is like extremely hot, no matter what, no matter the season, even if it's like below zero outside. But there are times in which I feel cold internally, but externally, when you touch me, I'm about to go nuclear, like absolute nuclear blast on the way. But when it comes to other physical effects, the worst one is when my legs feel like butter. But fortunately, that's something that hasn't really affected me since my teen years, or like, say, 21 or so. Um, and I'm pretty grateful for that because that's the one that made my shifts be unbearable. Um, when it comes to my mood, the most I can say is that when I'm starting to feel extra depressed, I notice that my period is looming before I see any physical evidence of it on its way. Say, before I feel any kind of pre-cramps, pre-period cramps, as I like to call them, or say that initial spotting and stuff. Like, I become I want to say that the best way I can evidence this is maybe I'll look at the calendar where I monitor my own period and I jot it down. Um, I want to say that my most critical videos have been published when I'm on my period. And what I mean by critical is the topics where I can go like really, really deep, really, really like critical, analytical, like no wiggle room for bullshit or anything like that. I want to say that my days leading up to my period make me hyper critical, hyper focused. And I actually have meltdowns that are super bad. Like, there were times in which I couldn't make a video or let alone stream years ago because I was having a fucking meltdown and I was crying because it's like my period made me see my life for what it really is, and it's so bad and so much worse than I like to admit. But I have like this positive outlook about me. I have like this sunny personality going on that continuously overshadows the reality of my circumstances. But even if I'm progressing through life, I still go back to feeling that way. It's like childhood trauma. Any trauma that you have that has gone unaddressed, unchecked, undealt with, that shit will continue to fuck with you for the rest of your days until you do something about it. My period, I guess, amplifies that feeling. Like, say, my daddy issues, they're amplified. Any disappointments that I have had, say, in my career or with interpersonal relationships, all that stuff, say, relationship with mom, relationship with boyfriend, relationship with Dusty, my cat, anything like that, it's like, oh, I am so impatient toward a cat. The cat is being a cat. Why is he frustrating me? Why is he pissing me off? You know, like Dusty's energy. Dusty is the cat that I needed back in 2014 and 15 when I had Nero. If you guys have been here for that, Nero used to be the one cat that frustrated me the most. He was antisocial, didn't like to be touched. And I get it, he was a stray, but it fucking offended me that for the first time in my life I had a cat that was fucking rejecting me. And then I thought, well, this cat is just being a cat. It's no different from a human being who grows up with certain experiences that shape their perception of the world. Like, you can be the most loving, caring, affectionate person in the world, getting paired up with someone who comes from like a shitty background, and no amount of that is going to make them perceive you positively until, I don't know what it takes. Maybe they never will, or maybe they will, but they just need to be led through the process. So my period, going back to my period now, it helps me see those flaws about me a little better. Something about, well, maybe if I was brave and I decided to contact my father and either tell him how he really messed me up and set myself free from the matter, if that's what's gonna do it, I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. My period makes me be a little more merciless, a little more cruel, a little colder, like detached from my soft, kind, sweet, sunny side that if you know me in person, you know that I have, and on the channel, there's only so much that I can present about myself. But I like to believe that if you were to meet me in person, like, you would probably say that about me right off the bat. Like, wow, the way that you create videos simply does not do you enough justice, even though I know it's you. Like, there's still something about you that we don't get because we have to experience you, like, in person, in the flesh, that type of thing. My period, I guess, is of course part of my identity. It's part of who I am, what I am, and it will affect my decision making at times, my performance, especially gym performance. Good grief. Like, I have to dial back so much, or else I'll have to suffer through a night of intense pain and all that I'm pretty much immune to. But just because I can handle it doesn't mean I want to condemn myself to having days like that. Because I think that the body, maybe my body is designed in that way to keep me in check. Be like, okay, if we didn't have something hindering you, you could probably, I don't know, take over the world. Just to give you an example. So, yeah, the period, physically, it will vary. Some people I hear talking about certain symptoms that I can totally relate to, but the intensity in which some people describe it, sometimes I think, you're just trying to get sympathy for yourself. Me personally, I like to be as sincere as possible about it. Sometimes I'm like, hey, my period arrived and I'm fine. I didn't have any pain. My mood was a little shit like 2 days before it officially started, like heavier flow, but I'm okay now. But some people, I feel like they like to cling to the negativity for longer than you need to. I'm not like that. So sometimes people might think that I'm just being an asshole for no reason and being like, oh yeah, Zam, you're just trying to toughen it, and you probably drug yourself, you probably take medication. And I'm like, I don't take any medication, and when I'm on my period I don't take Tylenol, I don't take any kind of like pain relief shit, because I'm telling you, my period, I think, is designed to be ridden out without the aid of those things. If you feel like you have to continually drug yourself during your period, maybe it's something about your lifestyle that you need to modify, or maybe there's something about your personality that you need to modify. Are you a moody ass person? Are you someone who's stressed out? Where are you at with your body, with your mind? And I think that maybe that's why I have smoother experiences with my period. Maybe that may be what I owe it to the most, as opposed to my genetics. But the reason I say genetically I'm predisposed to having okay days with it, I say that because Ma told me that the way that my symptoms manifested when I was younger was almost exactly what she experienced. But she gave me some advice on the things that she would do that helped her. And then I thought I could do those things, but I don't feel like I need it. What about me was different? Now I wish that I had a connection with like my paternal side, so that I could ask the women from from my paternal side, hey, what was your experience like? Because for me, except for the earlier years with it, it's been smooth sailing. And I think that it went to hell the moment I had the most stress in my life. Like, my late teens and early 20s were like the worst years of my life. And maybe what's different about me in the present is my ability to be aware of the things that are harmful for me. And my social circle is also much healthier as well. Like, if you guys remember, a year ago and back, I used to share some stories about my job and the kind of dynamic that I was experiencing over there socially that was affecting me really bad. I just cannot believe the level of bullshit I put up with and didn't defend myself from. So when you're stressed out like that, you have tension. When you're tense and you're dealing with something that's causing inflammation, you're asking for disaster. So, one of the things that I learned to do that I'm still working on is remaining calm. The way that I have achieved that is by having a leader in my calm department and believing in that person, trusting that person. And I'm continuously telling myself that maybe I had to meet that person to realize that I needed that kind of help. I needed to find my way again because I remember being a teen, being younger, and being okay. Like, I never had mood issues, I never had attitude problems until I had people in positions of power whose decisions affected me present, but whose character and personality was what we would define as toxic. And I don't like to really say that because I wouldn't want to present the matter as I was a perfect person, I was 100% a victim. Nothing like that. I'm sure that there's stuff that I could have handled a whole lot better if I were to like go in hindsight and consider some of those things. Say, read my journal, I'm like, oh, okay, I can't believe this is how I reacted to that. Just shit, I could go through that again and do so much better. Again, I needed a leader. My leader arrived after those terrible days were over, and now I'm saying, if only I would have had this leader at the time that I was struggling with this shit, I would have had a smoother ride. But that's literally what life is about. Life is about those things that you cannot control, that you try to plan for, but some of it may happen, some of it may not. You have to be okay with the outcome and continue from there, as opposed to staying stuck in that season of, oh, I'm stuck in the season when times were good. That's something that I keep meaning to make a topic about, but really, really, really quick. I hear a lot of people who stay at a job for a long time and they say how, oh, 15 years ago stuff was so much better. You're still stuck in that season. That season is over. How can you make your present season better, but also how can you get to the present season? I could do the same. I could be like, I remember a time when I was a kid and I didn't have a period that used to hinder me physically and all those things. That season is over. It's not coming back. How do I move forward with this? So, with my period, I don't like to stay stuck in that season. Like, say, I actually had my period twice in the month of August. I cannot say that's happened to me before, but basically, I had it, of course, on my fucking birthday, but I also had it I think my last one ended about 7 days ago. And I thought, great, I have my period twice this month. What happened? That's clearly not normal, but there were times in which I did miss it. And it can be kind of okay to miss it once in a while. It's when you continuously miss it, like say maybe 4 months in a row or so, that's when you really should see somebody. That's never happened to me. I think the most I have had was 2 months, or more like a month and a half of it not arriving. Naturally, my schedule with it is supposed to be on the 15th. But for the past year and a half, it's been arriving toward the end of the month. So it arrives toward the end of the month through the early days of the next month. So me saying I had 2 periods in August, I think my last one started in like July 31st and it ended on August it was either the 4th or the 5th. And then my last one started same thing toward the end of August and it ran until it wasn't September, but I think I still had like spotting going on the 1st of September, and then by September 2nd I was completely clear. I think that's how it went. But those things do not really concern me because I know that my body is not going to be consistent or predictable because my life has not been supporting me having a healthy body at the moment. Last month, it was incredibly stressful because I had stuff going on that I haven't told you guys about, but maybe eventually I will. But work became a little bit more, I guess, complicated in the sense of it's starting to clash with some of my values, and I'm trying to like trust the process. And it's also challenging me because my job description is evolving, and I'm not feeling confident about that because I don't feel like I have been trained well enough to embrace the new direction that we're taking. Put it that way. In my personal life, there's some things that changed in extreme short notice, and some stuff that I can anticipate is happening, and some stuff that I have pending. The stuff that's pending bothers me because some of it is out of my control, some of it is under my control, but say a schedule may not support me addressing those things. The most important thing I did for myself is be aware that those things are happening and it's overwhelming me, and I'm applying what I learned from my leader. Get away from it. I used to be the person who used to linger on a matter for very long. Be like, until this matter is not resolved, I'm not going to sleep, I'm not going to eat, all of that. Like, it's like I stopped functioning as a human being until a matter got addressed. And I realized how damaging that was. Now I am okay with letting go of things, even if I cannot sleep so well. Because of that, at least it doesn't consume me like it used to. Given those changes in my attitude, I think that's when my period started getting better. Like the fact that I had 2 periods in August, the second period in August, I didn't feel anything. It really was a breeze. It was pretty comfortable actually. I felt minor pain maybe for the second day. The second day is always the worst day. But I think it was because I had to work like 5 days on a row. And when you're on your days and you have to do that, your body is begging for you to rest. And what am I doing? Fucking working, exerting myself, exerting my body, exerting myself emotionally as well. Again, a schedule is not supporting my needs at that moment in time. But just because I am a woman who gets a period, I cannot be like, oh yeah, I absolutely need for the schedule to accommodate me and do all those things. No, I have to suck it up because this is a place that doesn't support that type of thing. But I'm not resentful of that. It's just the way things are. Do I wish they were different? Yeah, sure. But it is what it is. So hopefully I gave you a better picture of what it actually means for me to go through my period. I really don't think that my period ruins my life that much. Some women who express worse views and experiences, I'm not dismissing them. I'm not trying to minimize their experience. I do think that some of the stories may be exaggerated though. And the reason I say that is because about 2 years ago, I remember reading this trend, which was an article was written that officially period pain is comparable to a heart attack. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but my period has never taken me to the ER. A heart attack has actually taken people to the ER, and it may lead to someone actually dying. I don't really have a recollection of hearing that someone died from their period. Maybe the period complicated something, but it's not like nature is going to design you to have this going on in a way that you cannot handle it. You know what I mean? So, me as a woman, the way I look at it is if I was born with the period, it's because it's serving a purpose that's beneficial for me, even if the way that it manifests feels inconvenient. nature is not going to design me in a way in which I cannot handle it. Or sometimes I like to phrase it as God is not going to throw on me challenges that I cannot handle. So my views of me diminishing a woman's feelings on it, I guess, could be that because I have that mindset, I just wish that they looked at it the same way. Now, if you're someone who has something like, I don't know, fucking hemophilia or something like your iron is naturally low, which by the way, mine is, I have a degree of anemia, but I call it a degree because when I was younger, I feel like any kind of bleeding would leave me severely weakened and pale and shit. Mom has it. They thought I had it. Sometimes I think that I have it, but officially, medically, I have not been diagnosed with it. But I can say that when I started having a more iron-rich diet, I felt better during my period. Am I monitoring it as closely now? No. But maybe since I am getting careless with that, maybe it'll catch up with me eventually. I don't know. But that's what I hope people understand about me anytime that I say, oh, your period sucks, but it probably doesn't suck as bad as you're describing. I just want that person to think with more positivity and trust and faith in their own body. It's like your body was designed to handle things, but you have to aid it in its quest at fulfilling that. For example, don't smoke, exercise, watch what you eat, things like that. Those are the bare minimum little things that you can do to help your body process such a thing better. Maybe that's the discipline that I have that you don't have that makes me have a different experience, slightly more favorable than yours. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to say that if you do things like that, you're guaranteed to not have any struggles with your period, but just understand that your body comes with a set of rules. And if you don't favor it, then you will suffer the consequences. But I feel like the way you express yourself tends to be you're looking for sympathy and support when sometimes you are a victim of your own decisions and habits. So anyway, I thought I would put that out there and clarify that because anytime I try to get this deep with a topic, like some people try to like shut me up and I'm like, no, maybe what I'm saying could actually help you. And let me have my little sip of water because I'm about to start coughing and that's pretty awkward. Oh, refreshing. Okay, moving on. I have no negative thoughts or experiences. My father was a doctor and my mother was very open about it. That's good. I think that part of the problem is when you are introduced to a topic and you're left in the unknown world for too long. And what I mean by that is you you need to be supported with those things. So if Holger had such a good experience, or rather, if you have had no negative thoughts or experiences, having a father who was a doctor and having a mother that was more open about it made you more capable of tolerating such a thing when it came up. I think that's normal because you know the story I was telling you about how my mood became better the moment I had a leader in my life who supported those things, blah, blah, blah. You, Holger, had two leaders in your life when it comes to, I guess, influencing your perception of a woman in her period. Your mom being open was awesome because you wouldn't be uncomfortable present in that setting, in that situation. You're aware that this is something that happens to women. You accept it, you embrace it, you move on, etc. Some people wouldn't. And there are people who I have met who say that their period was the scariest experience in their lives because their mothers, for some reason, never gave them a heads up that such a thing would happen. That is incredibly damaging because now you have this woman or young girl experiencing this completely without any guidance. And this doesn't need to be a mortifying, traumatic experience. This is just, it's kind of like a milestone. Oh, you're between age 11, 12, 13. You are maturing physically to be able to do certain things. Now your body has the potential of supporting a baby, yada yada. Those things. You shouldn't be afraid about the natural occurrence of life. Eventually, you'll get old and suffer the consequences about what it means to be old. You know, like some of the senses that start to go, some of the physical abilities that start to go, and those changes. But when old age arrives, the good thing is that it's not like I'm going to go to bed tonight and wake up tomorrow and be old as fuck. It's a gradual process type of thing. So if you have an open conversation about those things, maintain awareness, I think that's what makes the experience more pleasant for some people. For me, one of the best things that I can say I do for myself is I like to be curious. I like to ask questions. And something that I did with a friend like 2 nights ago was I asked him, hey, since you're an older person, this is a person in his 50s. I was like, do you remember your childhood looking up at the sky? And do you feel like it was starrier than in present days? Is that true? Is it true that you could just see much more stuff in the sky with your naked eye as opposed to having to go to these deserted places and have special equipment to be able to see things? And he was like, absolutely. I saw the Milky Way. I saw all kinds of stars and all that stuff. And I said, fuck, I cannot say I have had that experience. And that makes me aware that the planet, as I see it, looked very different from what other people remember. Some people may be stuck in that season of, oh, back in my day, this is the stuff that I had access to. And one of the things that I have brought up in the channel before about people who don't understand why I do not wish to be a mom and why I skipped college. Like, I cannot be excited about being a mom if I was not raised to be a mom. I did not have any younger siblings. To this day, I still have not held a baby in my arms. And I do not have that maternal, I guess, impulse. I do have a degree of the maternal instinct by nature, but trust me, I am not qualified to be a mom. And I don't think that anybody is ever 100% prepared for it. What I'm saying is that some people who become parents may be better off if they experienced having children that they helped care for. I have zero experience caring for a child, and I do not have the intention of changing that. So that is putting me at a disadvantage because to me, I don't know about children ever since I stopped being a child myself. So now I am disconnected and detached from child matters. So if for whatever reason, the most terrible mistake that I can hope for in my life, having a child, were to happen, I know that I am going to be screwed beyond words. So with college, for example, skipping college, I know that means that there's some stuff that I'm going to be behind with. What I try to do is once I become aware that there's something that I need to change or become aware of or become better educated on, I try to help myself get there. I'm never going to try to compete with the knowledge of someone who has had a more formal education. I'm never pretending to. But what I do want is to be respected for how far I have gotten without such a privilege, without such a, what is it, experience. And I also wish that the folks who do hold degrees and all that, I also wish that you didn't feel like the fumes going up to your head to where you just feel superior to anybody, inherently superior to anybody who doesn't have a degree. Because let me tell you, anytime I supervise some people using something as basic as self checkout, it's like, what the fuck? You guys are supposed to be the higher earners, the respected people in our community, and you cannot handle bagging your groceries. I cannot get over that shit. Okay, I'm not gonna talk about that, but trust me, there's a pending video about more horror stories of retail that I have not had the time to tell you guys. But that's what I'm saying. Just respect every member of your community because we all serve a purpose. And whether you think it affects you directly or not, at some point something is going to catch up with you. So just chill out. Okay? Like, especially if you're an uber privileged person, just chill the fuck out. Let's see. Let me catch up with the comments. I was a medic in the Air Force, so blood doesn't bother me at all. I had to draw it from people's arms all the time. That's cool. I have always wondered about the medical experience from a military perspective versus the regular city, town kind of medical center. Say, when it comes to the military, you may be tending to someone in the middle of battle or in a plane, something like that. But when you're out here, you can anticipate that, okay, ambulance ride, the clinic, maybe a little bit of aid straight on the road or something, anything, first responder stuff. But I've always wondered what it's like with the added level of, I guess, making your place suitable for medical assistance. Because, I mean, if you're somewhere where your stress level is high because you're worried about your safety, that's bad. At least here, our doctors don't need to be worried about that type of thing. You're not actively doing your practice somewhere where your safety's on the line. But say when you're on a battlefield or something like that, that's different. So like your medical ability, it just needs to be, I guess, leveled up somehow. I'm not saying that military doctors are inherently all going to be like in that type of setting. Some people may be able to just be in like VA stuff or something. But what I'm trying to say is that sometimes I wonder what a doctor from a military background thinks or feels like about certain things versus like a civilian level doctor. That's something that I've never had the opportunity to actually discuss with anyone or really look into, but I think it would be a nice topic as well. Maybe it's people lacking the ability to accept reality. Always. The denial of reality, I think, is one of the things that make us not progress quite as much as a society. Don't get me wrong, we have progressed a lot. But there are certain things that I feel we are stuck on that we don't move on because we haven't accepted certain realities. And that should definitely be a topic on its own. So I'm not going to try to dwell on it too much at this moment. I find that if women are squeamish about it, men around them are too, since I had parents that were open about it. Wait, since I had parents that were open about it. Whole girl, I'm kind of confused by that one comment I'm trying to read. The second sentence. Since I had parents that were open about it, so we're us kids. What? Help. But yes, women who are mothers, I find, tend to not be as squeamish about certain things because your fucking child is going to be snotty, dirty diapers, making messes. You cannot afford to be squeamish. Me personally, that's another thing I guess I could say supports me not wanting to be a mom because I can be pretty freaky about certain things. And the moment that I see a child just being a child doing child things, it's like, ugh, I'm not designed for this. But some people say, well, when you get into it, you change. Like it I don't want to change. You know, that's part of it. But I also understand that it could be a virtue. Like the things that I'm squeamish about, it's like, eh, maybe becoming a mom would cure certain things about me. But I'm thinking, what about the misery that I know such a status is going to bring me that I don't have to be okay with because I don't need to go through the experience of having a kid to know that I would regret it? You know, that's what I'm trying to say. You're hella honest always. And I like that you say that MGTOW ghost because literally everybody who starts getting to know me on a deeper level, the first thing they say is, I like how open you are and I just like how freaking honest you are. And I'm like, yeah, just I don't have time to be any other way, you know? Now, there is some stuff that I will admit I can be a little shady with. And what I mean by that is I don't like to disclose everything necessarily. So I can be guilty of omission, but it's not omission that's going to alter the course of something. Like, I'm never trying to really manipulate you or something. It's just that when I omit info, it's because I feel like I am not the proper source to make you aware of something. And that's something that I apply at my job a lot. I am a 9-year vet at the place that I work at, in the position that I work at. Do I have skills that are above what my job description declares? Fuck yeah. Do I abuse that and take advantage of that, especially the newer generation of workers? No. To this day, I still ask for permission from management if it's okay for me to try to coach somebody on a matter because I sincerely think that there are some matters that don't pertain to me in the sense of I'm not the one who holds the title to be communicating those things. Like, say, if I see someone who has a shitty performance, it's not up to me to tell that person, your performance fucking sucks and this is what you're doing wrong. So, like, that's not my territory, that's management's territory. And although I know that management would trust my judgment at communicating those things with this individual, I don't do that because I don't have that authority. And I wouldn't like for someone to do that to me either. Like, let's say that I'm actually the manager of a place and there is a duty that corresponds to me, but someone is like doing it for me when they're not supposed to. That would bother me. So, one of the favors I guess that I can do for my team is be like, yeah, just because I'm a 9-year vet doesn't mean that I'm going to be laid back because of like a seniority privilege or something. No, my supervisor is still going to be my supervisor. Even if my supervisor is like 19 years old, which by the way, I have managers now that are much younger than me. It's like this is the person who has the position of authority. They're going to be respected as such. And if they do something that I don't feel comfortable with, that's when I may escalate it a little bit. but I'm never going to not be honest about that shit. And sometimes I do make decisions that fall in the realm of management, and I'll be like, hey, I made this decision in your absence. I couldn't consult you because you were busy, you were away, whatever the fuck. First, forgive me, but second, this is what I did. Is that okay? Okay. Just because I know that's okay this time around doesn't mean I'm going to have the liberty of making those kinds of decisions. That was a special occasion. And I think that's what makes people trust me. And to me, being trusted means a lot because it fucking sucks to go through life not trusting a lot of people. And that's something that happened to me for a long time. And some of you guys have been pointing out that I seem like happier, more refreshed, and just better overall. And I'm like, sure. But at the same time, I'm like, there's some stuff going on in my life that still hurts and makes me miserable. But the difference now is that I'm convinced that this is all part of a process, part of a cycle. And I just have to like write it out, stick to it. Like, I'll get through it no matter what it is. Whereas in the past, I remained in that season where I kept thinking that I wasn't going to get through it. That's the difference between Zam from maybe like 2, 3 years ago and back versus the Zam that you guys see now. I guess I truly embrace life as a learning experience. That's the best way I can describe it. Let's see. We should get married. I think we would have a great marriage and life together. My name is Danish. You remembered correctly. Okay, cool. Let's see. People have pronounced my name like Folger's coffee. Oh man. I definitely cannot say. I would have said Folgers. But now, because of your name, I want to say that as Folger. Folger's coffee. I remember you posted that on a previous comment. Ghost says, my ex-wife had really bad period cramps up until she had her hysterectomy. I was happy for that because she was mean when she was on it. When it comes to like attitude problems during your period, I have had instances in which the impulse to be a biatch has been there. Trust me, I'm not gonna deny it. But the most important thing you must do for yourself when you're in your period is to be aware. I have a friend who I tell, hey, I'm on my period. If I start having meltdowns or expressing that I'm jittery or having a lot of stress or like just scrambling about everything, remind me that I'm on my days. I won't be offended. Or if I'm treating you unfairly or like if my tone is harsh or something, please call me out on it because sometimes I need help with that. Sometimes I may be too caught up with being bombarded with so many things that need my attention that I forget that I have a body doing bullshit. And if you can help me be aware, that helps. I don't even care how you say it, especially if you're my friend. If I'm telling you such a thing, that means that I fucking trust you. And this is someone in like my most inner circle. Of course, you can tell me anything and you can say it in whatever way. But be mindful of what kind of day am I having. Like, you can troll me any day, anytime, but there are times in which if I'm depressed, if I have declared myself sad, depressed, or anxious, please don't troll me because my senses are like already overstimulated, like I'm already overstressed, and I, as much as I need a laugh or to be teased and stuff, that's not a good moment for me because at that moment what I need is something to calm me. So if you're telling me, hey, maybe you're amplifying a situation because of the physical challenges that you're going right now, that'll force me to stop. And when I stop and start thinking, like deeper than my default state of thinking is, it's like, thank you. That helps me realize that I was stressing myself out in a way that I didn't need to be getting stressed out. And it's because I lost awareness. I became detached from my body because other things needed attention. So, again, I think that is particularly true for any situation in life. If you're aware of things, it's such smooth sailing. I promise you. But yeah, at least for me, that's the way this thing goes. Did you know that among African American girls, the age of menage is getting younger and younger? I know that there's some stuff about African American women, like things that happen to them in a way that varies from other groups of women. I don't think I knew that one though. Interesting. But I do know that there are some folks where um it's like certain races mature a little sooner than other races. And say there are some kids who have actually like gotten pregnant when they were only 9 or 10 years old. And I'm like, was that girl even having a period? So that's something that you just reminded me I meant to look into. Have you tried a period tracker app? I don't believe in that. I don't like that. I am a pen and paper kind of girl, but this time around, what I'm actually using is my notes app on my phone. I have something called Track My Period, and I like to write in there when it started, at what time, how bad was it, and I like to use my vocabulary. I like to use my own, I just like to decorate it in my own way. And on top of that, I really don't like apps. I feel like apps are clutter. And when it comes to my personal information like that, I just don't feel confident using an app to track such a thing, you know? I would rather make a YouTube video and talk to you guys generically about what my period experience is like, but I don't need to religiously like whip out this app on my phone and be like, yeah, this is happening, and nothing like that. No, I don't use period tracking apps, and I never will. I don't care. Magismo says hello, and I say hello. Holger has supplied your girl with $20. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Much more than you can imagine. um, let's see. Oh, cool. It looks like. Did you actually choose that, I guess, sticker that's accompanying the thing that you sent, Holger? Because I see something that says wood and it's kind of like a remote control kind of dancing. Did you choose that? Because I don't remember seeing that before. And I know that YouTube has been making so many changes that YouTube is just so different from what I remember back in 2005 or so when I created my account. I think it was 2006 or 2007. Anyway, my original YouTube account, which bit the dust a long time ago. Yeah, I remember the site was just really like retro, so old school and stuff. But yeah, thank you. I meant that because my parents were open about it. We as kids were open about it. Okay, okay, gotcha. And I think that now that you mention as kids, I think that there are certain topics that are maintained as taboo for kids that some people said, your mom was talking to you about this and that when you were young. Like, wow. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I asked her. How do you guys feel about that? Do you guys feel like some people do cross a line with what you expose children to? Or do you think that children should be exposed to things and guide them, kind of? The reason I say that is because occasionally I see something online that is controversial. And did I freeze? I feel like I might have frozen there. Anyway, in case I froze, I'm gonna say what I remember I was saying before that came up on my phone. Do you guys feel like kids really need to have boundaries when it comes to the stuff that they're learning about? Or do you think that kids are allowed to know about things, but maybe not too deeply? Or do you think that children should be informed about things, but be guided through it? Like, say, let's say that they run into something, I don't know, sexual, something like that. Do you think that the child needs to be completely protected and like have holy water applied on their eyes or something, and pretend that it wasn't a thing or didn't happen, dismiss the kid? Or do you think that you're allowed to talk to them in detail about it, but controlled detail? The way I remember I was brought up was nothing was off limits. But what mom would do is, there's only so much stuff I can tell you right now. But trust me, when you get to, I don't know, ninth grade, it's going to come up again. And that'll open a new discussion. And then we can talk about it again when that moment comes. And then I would be like, okay, and keep going about my life, you know? I feel like when you deprive kids of those experiences, you're overprotecting them. And overprotected kids may end up having like confidence issues, or some things become off limits, just developmental problems, I think, ensue when you do kids like that. You know, like when you deprive them of topics. Me personally, I would hope that more people can be open about those things. Because when I was a kid, I honestly did not really have secrets from mom. I was never embarrassed about anything, I was never shy about anything. And to this day, I still am the same way. I'll still ask her about things and tell her about things. But had I not had that, I would have definitely turned out a whole lot different. I don't think that I would be able to sit here tonight and have this topic, even in the stage of life that I may be in right now. But I really do think that having parents who are open is really more beneficial than having parents who are like tabooish and overprotective. Because I feel like in an effort to be overprotective and kind of like keep your kids from suffering, you end up hindering them because you're depriving them from experiences that they need to be able to process the real shit in life that awaits them. Maybe that's where some of us may have experiences where we meet somebody who's like fucking 40 years old and you still think that they think like a fucking child. Maybe that individual was overprotected growing up, and that led up to these consequences. Does that make sense? I know I don't feel like I'm expressing it very clearly, but I really do think that having an open discussion with kids is more beneficial than detrimental. But I do understand that those topics, some topics need to be dealt with children responsibly. I think that omission would be an irresponsible thing to do. But you guys let me know if you feel like there's something that kids should absolutely never have to know about. Hello, Jimmy. Nice to see you. The sticker was not my choice. Okay, cool. I didn't think it would be. Interesting. yeah, I guess YouTube is really evolving in ways that I couldn't anticipate. Thanks for letting me know. But yeah, you guys, that's pretty much it when it comes to my topic. I really cannot think of anything that I haven't mentioned and watched. The moment I stop recording, that's when I'm going to remember, or all kinds of shit. Usually that's how it goes. Sometimes when a video is done uploading, I'm like, oh fuck, I should have said this and that in the future, in the future. I think that kids should be educated on adult topics, maybe at middle school age. If I had kids, I would not want them to encounter them and have to make uneducated decisions. That was exactly mom's fear. She used to be like, please, anytime that you hear something that may seem shocking or wrong or inappropriate, consult me. I'm not going to deprive you of something. I'm not going to try to control you or manipulate you. I just feel like there are certain things that the source where you get the info from matters. And I'm glad that she said that. My childhood was, it was like, when it comes to matters like that, it was very well structured. I was guided, oriented every step of the way. I feel like some adults who are parents do not have the patience with their children, and their children end up being dismissed. Children are going to be curious, and children are going to sometimes stumble upon things that we feel they shouldn't be stumbling on, as opposed to being annoyed by that or upset by that and being like, no, we gotta shoot this topic down and hopefully the kid will forget about it. I think you're initiating a trauma there, because now this kid is going to feel like if they speak up about something, they're going to be punished. Things like that, I believe, need to feel like a rewarding experience. It's no different than relationships. Have you ever been with someone who you try to say something to and you don't want to hurt them, you don't want to offend them, you're not manipulating them, you're just sharing some intimate shit about yourself and they get defensive? That is an unaddressed problem that that individual has, and it's not you. I once was in a relationship like that where I couldn't be myself, I couldn't share anything, I couldn't say anything that was private or intimate or anything like that, because the person would automatically take it as, oh, you're trying to manipulate me, you're trying to pressure me, shit like that. And I'm like, I'm the last person in the world you need to worry about, and I am the easiest person to talk to. But for some reason, you're having trouble remembering that or admitting that. I learned that that person being that way was actually not my fault. And the worst thing I did for myself was feeling that was my fault. So with a child, if you make this child feel punished for discovering something or being curious about something, or just making mistakes in general. You know, kids cry, kids make messes, kids break things, kids lose things. Some adults tend to be really frustrated and really mad with children when they add a stress to their plate. And I think that's where the damage to the kid comes from. Like the adult person's inability to remain calm and handle the situation damages the child. And this is something that I have observed, especially in public. Sometimes I see parents getting mad at kids for the dumbest of things, and I'm thinking, all you have to do is orient your child. This is the educational opportunity, and you are blowing it. Why? Why are we so bad about that? Like, we tend to be reactionary creatures. Why can we not be a little more patient, I guess, and understanding and be like, oh, look at my kid being a fucking kid. Let me just take this as an opportunity to be like, hey, when you're pouring something, And if it's too heavy for you, how about if you get someone to help you instead? I don't know. Like, usually people get frustrated when kids break something or make messes. Well, try to figure out, why did the child break something in the first place? How did it happen? Why did it happen? How can you make the child better at handling things? Maybe you could be diagnosing your child with a motor development problem and you're missing the opportunity. And then you're going to be like, oh, well, I had no idea that my kid had problems with grip. You have to wait for something disastrous to happen. And then you try to make yourself the victim. Like, no, 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 no. You need to observe better, engage better with your little person, all those things. I only see the solution. But of course, it's easy for me to say because I'm not a parent at that moment in time. But I would think that this wouldn't need to be. Sorry, I don't know if it happened again. But I can say that very easily because I'm not a parent, but I would think that you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure that stuff out. I don't know why my phone is acting like it's not charging. Let me make sure that it's charging. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. That was weird. Sometimes my phone does this bullshit where even if I have it plugged in, it like charges down even while it's charging, and I still haven't figured out how to, I guess, make it behave better. Let's see. What was I saying? Right. Patience. Children. Children need to feel comfortable and like they're not under attack if something comes up. And I know that some of my childhood traumas could actually boil down to that. Like there was a time in which something happened and I said something and it wasn't a rewarding experience and then I got fucked. And like I never got over that or made peace with that because I haven't had the opportunity to express myself. So I think that a lot of childhood trauma is poor reactions that the adults present in this child's life had. But of course, that's me overly simplifying it. But I'm just saying that could be a contributor. Let's see. My ex-girlfriend has dysmenorrhea and her periods were very painful. I'm so glad you don't have that. Something that I would like to check myself for is endometriosis, because when my periods were super, 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 super bad, I knew somebody who had it, and the way she was describing things was exactly how I felt it. But I feel like if I had that endo stuff, I don't think that I would be having a pretty painless and smooth experience at this point. But something that Ma did say is that some of the problems that she did have when she was my age were fixed after she had her pregnancy, after she had my brother. But then I'm thinking, well, Ma, if I ain't gonna have kids, I don't think that I have to, in the name of fixing my body, have kids, because I know that after you had kids, there were some issues that came up with you that you're not disclosing, but just know that, haha, as someone who was interested in the medical field, I learned some shit that you ain't told me, but I know about you. So when are we gonna talk about that? So yeah. I don't think that I have endometriosis. I really don't think that I could be getting away with not seeing anybody for that. Like, I feel like endo definitely affects your day-to-day life. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll never forget that one friend describing to me the shit she would go through. And I came so close to doing that, just getting myself checked and being like, well, if I have to, I'm gonna take birth control in the name of balancing my hormones and then deepening my depression, possibly. But I said to myself, if my body was born with that flaw, then it'll figure something out. And if I'm going to be taken out because of that, then Not everybody's gonna win. Not everybody's going to survive, you know? But anyway, that's just me randomly talking. What I'm saying is that not everybody can have it good, you know? Like, there's always going to be something wrong with you, some things that you may not even be aware of. So just trust your body to do its thing. And if it gets complicated enough to where your body doesn't have a solution, then so what? Life is like limited. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of like suffering like that. I know it's a thing that happens. And there's some people who don't even have a way of addressing it at all. So in that regard, I feel like I am pretty privileged. You know, I don't know. I will never forget that conversation with this one friend. And I said to myself, the first thing I'm going to do is not stress myself out like you are. And that may sound really cold and cruel, but what I'm saying is that this person, maybe her condition initially wasn't that bad, but some decisions that she made may have complicated it. I don't know what the origin of endometriosis is. Like, is it genetic? Is it something that was just going to happen to you? Or if you have a malformation? Or if it's environmental? Whatever it is. Like I've said before, I think that you can better your situation and circumstances based on your lifestyle and how you monitor your moods and stuff like that. This person I'm thinking about, she was definitely not the greatest at managing her mood. And that is something that she would tell me, I don't know how the fuck you do it, but I just wish that I had your attitude. And I said, it's not difficult. I I was almost your twin when it came to my attitude and mindset and way of looking at things, but I never thought about just immediately drugging myself over something. I think that my downfall is going to be that I keep I keep minimizing the way I see pain to where I tolerate pain so well that maybe I have experienced pain that are actual emergencies that I should have checked out, but I don't. And it's, trust me, it's not a lack of desire, it's more of a lack of resources. So I'm thinking to myself, what can I do to help my body be on my side more than succumbing to those ailments? I hope that makes sense. I know that I keep going off on a tangent in that regard, but I just remember a time when I used to be incredibly miserable physically as well. And I'm remembering what I was doing and not doing with my body and with my mind, what was happening versus where I'm at now. And even though my circumstances really haven't improved much, something about me did change. And I look at life better. Even the things that have not gotten better just don't bother me as much. I think that's progress. Even if the progress is not like physically visible, like say, oh, it's not like I'm $1 million woman or something, something like that, you know, something extreme. Like, at least my entire outlook and even the way I appear superficially, it's gotten better. And even you guys have pointed it out. So that's what I'm saying. I just wish that people had a little bit more faith on themselves and what they have been endowed with, as opposed to depositing their faith on others. Like, say, just drugging yourself because you don't like pain. I don't like pain. Nobody likes pain. But pain is like the check engine light in your body. But do you take the car to a mechanic immediately when something is like off? No. Like, you just wait a little bit and be like, okay, let me diagnose this. But it doesn't mean that just because you have a flat tire, it doesn't mean that you need to buy an entire new tire. It could be that something needs to be patched up, or maybe your cap was loose or something, you know? So maybe your body is just doing the same. You didn't sleep up. How is sleep going to catch up with you? Things like that. I don't want to sound like I don't believe in doctors and stuff, doctors and medicine. Of course, I do believe in that stuff. But there are some things, like, say, your fucking period, that I think you don't need to be drugging yourself for. Learn to write it out. And then if you do that, then you will be able to know what things your body can handle versus what things meds are doing the work for you. So I think I have reached a point where I have let my body deal with my period on its own so much that now I know exactly what I need to have smoother periods. That's why earlier I was saying I never take pain meds, I never take sleeping pills, anything like that, because now I know what things I need to adjust on the days leading to, during, and after my fucking period. But some women have detached themselves from their body so much that they rely on, say, drugging themselves as opposed to thinking about what are the things they can change about their lifestyle to make their periods be a smoother experience. So I cannot say that this is something that every woman can do, because some people are simply struggling with other kinds of challenges, like genuine medical conditions. So, like, my approach may not be applicable for them. But again, I can't emphasize this enough. To me, I like to let my body try to handle it, see what it can do. It was designed in a way for a reason. So why not try to trust it before you, like, deposit your faith on other hands, especially here in the United States, where we know this is a fucking business. Like, do you really want to try that vicious, to, like, keep funding that vicious cycle, continuing? If I can make it to my 40s and stay away from the doctor, then hell yeah. But some people, since they were 16, their body has been like a petri dish for, like, all kinds of meds and shit. It's like, no, I can't imagine that having been my life. I don't need to follow a schedule. I had a friend who used to freak out about what time she didn't take her birth control. Like, oh man, I need to take my fucking medicine, this and that. You're enslaved to a schedule. Maybe you didn't need to in the first place, because now you're taking this medication and now something else is coming up because it's a side effect. How are you winning? You know? So I would rather just let the body fucking do its thing. Let's see. Where am I at? I remember getting the talk in middle school. I remember that the pads had belts, and I felt so sorry for the girls. Well, what I like about pads is the many choices that you have, because some of them are thick but shorter, some of them are long but not thick, some of them are long and thick, some of them are long and have wings, some of them are like super short and super thin. I guess that one's for like the residual or the beginning of it. Personally, I used to never buy those, but then I started to, because I thought, well, my period sometimes would arrive in a way where the flow was just heavy from the get-go. It's like I barely had a heads up of, you know, faint pink spotting. It was like, boom, here it is, bitch. Psych. Whether you were prepared or not. But other times, this is the worst. Sometimes I would feel cramps as if I were on my period, but there was no blood. So it's like, am I having like a dry kind of period, to where, sure, I have the pain, but where's the blood? Sometimes I could have blood but no pain. Sometimes I would have pain but no blood. Sometimes I would have the mood changes with pain but no blood. Sometimes I would have mood changes with blood but no pain. Like, what? So, I don't know. I don't know how to explain that phenomenon, but I've been there. I have come to the belief that modern life tends to magnify or complicate females' periods. Hail to the yes, because there has been 3 instances in which I have gotten lucky, super blessed with my schedule. And I tease my manager because my manager is a guy, but I'm like, dude, how is it that you schedule me to be off when I'm on my period? Thanks, dude. But whenever it's another manager making the schedule, someone who I'm probably not as like attached with or connected with, this person will schedule me to be on stretches for the entirety of my fucking period. Ugh. I just want to strangle this person. It's like, bruh, you're supposed to know that a sister needs accommodations for this particular week. How come this person does it but you don't? And mind you, the other person is like completely oblivious to the fact that they gave me a sweet period friendly schedule. It just happened. But something that happens too, you guys may not believe this, but trust me, every time we hire a fucking girl, my period changes. It's almost like everybody's going to be in the same orbit. Like when I say, oh, my period is starting, and it's the beginning of the month, most of the ladies in the department will say that they too are on their period. And the only ones who don't are the ladies who are like old enough to not have the period anymore. So anytime we hire a girl who's like in period age, she's gonna mess up the flow and the system. Ugh. But I just find it interesting that yes, you're right. Modern days does not support being a woman with days like that. But I also think that politically it's our fault because we decided that we want to go out there and work and become doctors and have 12-hour shifts and all that stuff. That video that I made about values and ambition that women have. Like, nobody's telling you that you cannot be ambitious, but do be aware that that shit is going to have consequences. Me personally, I feel like I am punished because of the values of those women whose values I do not share. I'm not trying to be rich. I'm not trying to travel. I'm not trying to own a big house. I'm not trying to like buy luxury shit. I'm not buying makeup. You know, all those things that women value. I'm not trying to get surgery for like fucking making my ass bigger or my tits bigger. Like, whatever the hell. I am perfectly content with what I have, both physically and in my home. But because there were some women out there who were so fucking extra, now a lot of us, all of us, have to suffer those consequences. And those consequences are that now, because we think that we can do literally anything that a man can do, it's like, sure, men too have periods, therefore the workplace has been, what is it, adjusted to accommodate for those needs? Fuck no. So I guess I'm going to disclose that the original topic that I was going to stream about, that I decided to delay, it was actually about inclusion. And it was going to be me learning about inclusion as I streamed. Because while I understand that inclusion is more about respecting the fact that there are differences amongst us, I guess building tolerance, I was going to question whether or not that's something that's actually doable. But the way I was going to go about it is more from a political perspective more than a workplace kind of perspective. And what I mean is, me as a hetero female, like, nothing about me is like modified, you know, like I'm exactly as I am. I know what I am, I know who I am, etc. Like, I never walk around in my day feeling like, oh, I'm in a place that's predominantly white. That makes me uncomfortable. We need to have representation for biracial people. Where are my biracials in this setting? Like, realistically, I don't think that inclusion is doable. But I don't want to come off as someone who's saying that segregation or discrimination or those things need to continue to happen. Nothing like that. It's just that I feel like we have a goal that we cannot fulfill. But again, I understand that in what is it? Being inclusive is more about respect. Like respect a person, period. But the way that I also interpret being inclusive is that we have to have a team that's diverse. But what if that diversity actually is harmful for a particular group? Like let's say that we're in the military and let's see, I have 5 of you guys tuned in. I believe that all of you who are tuning into the stream are male. Would you trust me to be like in your team if we were like in a war or something? Would you trust me to be the one carrying shit, or like say carrying you if you're injured, carrying our weapons, just stuff that's physically demanding? Would you prefer me over a guy who's fucking swole or something like that? I wouldn't trust me to do those things. So you were trying to be inclusive in this team in the military, but including me, trying to accommodate me and making me feel welcome in the setting, giving me a chance to be involved, that actually cost the team something. So that's how I wanted to explore the topic, but I wanted to learn about it as the stream progressed because I understand that my understanding about it and knowledge about it and interpretation of it is pretty limited. I did not grow up with people talking about being inclusive. So, what does it actually mean to be inclusive outside the workplace, outside your home, stuff like that? Is being inclusive something that's doable? Me as a girl who has a period, is it possible to include me at everything? I can be respected for the fact that I have a period, but what about the circumstances in which my period is going to be problematic? We cannot go around pretending that that's not going to be an issue. And I don't think it's fair to expect from me to ride it out, like endure the pain and be like this perfect individual, maintain my composure, my image, my physical performance, whatever, if I'm at a disadvantage. So, is being inclusive actually possible? Inclusive to me, meaning that I'm going to have like a fair shot at everything. Like, when I think of inclusive, is beyond being respected. Sorry, I need water. Oh, that was so awkward. Give me 1 second. Shit. I have my fan on. So, like, my throat is, like, really dry now. The beauty of life. Shit happens. It actually made a tear gather in my eye. Anyway, again, inclusivity, it's supposed to be about respect, but you know me, I gotta make it deeper and complicated. Is that actually doable though? Like, sure, I can respect you from the perspective of basic human courtesy and decency, you are respected in that regard. But I wouldn't be able to respect you trying to pursue something that could actually hurt us as a team. And I feel like in an effort to be inclusive, we're sacrificing that. And say with women, especially in fields that tend to be more male dominated, I feel like the bar needs to be like set a little lower so that women have an opportunity to, I guess, prosper in it, you know? I don't think that's right. I'm not saying that women cannot contribute anything, but why is it that you have to alter something that had already existed to accommodate you? See? So, again, that is a topic that we definitely should do separately, but hopefully you can see why I needed to deviate from it tonight, because I'm definitely not well informed yet on it for me to have thoughts developed enough to be able to explore that topic, but it's coming. Pain is weakness leaving the body. I can dig that. I have heard many times that women tend to automatically synchronize their periods. Strange that it works that way. And it's true. These days, that doesn't really happen because we have a massive revolving door with employees that simply aren't fucking staying at the job. Let's see. In my department, women who have been there for longer than a year, let's see. I'm going to mentally count them so that I don't call out their names. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, including me, 4, 5. Unfortunately, because we haven't hired to like replace the folks we have lost, I don't really remember how many folks we're supposed to have in our department, but I think we're supposed to be like 60 people. But out of those 60 is going to be male versus women. It's not going to be 50-50, like, oh, 30 is going to be male, 30 is going to be female. It's always been uneven. So I'm having trouble putting together a number to represent that difference. But I would say that women who we have hired this year, let's see, there's been immediately that I can recall. I'm gonna limit it to the past 3 months. Since we're in the summertime, I can remember what season what was happening. I want to say out of 20 women that we have hired, only 3 are still with us. Something like that. So maybe if this synchronization, whatever the word is, please help me, is a thing, then just like you were saying, modern days does not support women in this regard. Well, this trend happening in modern days about people not holding on to their jobs, if this is absolutely scientifically true, that women's periods tend to synchronize, then because we're not staying around each other, we're not supporting each other like that. So it's almost like we're becoming our own enemies. Like, you are fucking me over because you're leaving as opposed to staying. Now I need to kind of survey the veterans, but I do know that I'm synchronized with most of the people who have been there for a long time. So, yeah, that is a thing. And I didn't want to believe it. I used to think it was bullshit. But in the same manner that some people are affected by the energy that's around them, like I had one of my friends was telling me that he tends to, let's say that he walks into the room in a perfectly good mood, but the energy is like low and negative and frustrating, his mood changes too. And I'm like, maybe as opposed to allowing for your mood to change, you need to become the leader of not letting your mood be affected by what's happening around you. Because then now you're being affected when you were not meant to be affected. You lost control. I think that's silly. What do you think about period leave? Some companies offer 3 days off to manage your period. Okay, had you asked me that question some 3 to 4 years ago, I would have said, hell to the yes, this is terrible, this is unfair, how is this not a thing? But presently, I can say very confidently that I don't think it's fair that my team needs to adjust the schedule because of me going through this. Because, like I was saying earlier, my body is designed to have the period for a reason. My body is designed to be able to handle the period. If my period is so bad to where I need to have days off to deal with my period, something is majorly wrong with me. And I don't think that it's fair for adjustments to be made in my name when it is an issue that I need to address. So, to put it differently, my period should not be a reason for me to call out. If I'm calling out because of my period, then there is something extremely medically wrong with me that I need to have checked out. Period. No pun intended. But I do think that it could be beneficial. Like me personally, it's like, heck yeah, I want to have a comfortable, smooth period. But how much more protection do I need? How much more accommodation do I need? Like, every time we change something and we implement a rule that's going to benefit the women, we're going to find something wrong with it and we're going to start complaining about it. And okay, we get 3 days off to deal with our period, but now it's setting us back. I don't know. Would it be paid period leave? Let's say that it's unpaid leave. It's like, sure, you can take 3 days off to deal with your period, but you won't be compensated for that. How is that fair on the men though? Because the men don't get to just take 3 days off to fucking bullshit. I think that a pay gap in that regard would actually be justified because a man doesn't have an excuse to miss 3 days for health related issues. The man is probably not necessarily a man, maybe a woman would be making up for me being absent, but let's just say for some reason it would be a guy. How is that fair on that man though? That man doesn't get to have 3 days off for any reason. So just because I'm naturally predisposed to this challenge, it's a challenge that shouldn't be taking me out of my job. Again, your period should not keep you from doing your job. Now, if you have like an extremely difficult job, I don't know, like say you're an athlete or something, that's a completely different animal because athletes tend to be under contracts and your schedule, like let's say that you're a fighter or some shit, you cannot just cancel a fight because you're on your period. Like usually pro athletes, doesn't their period like get destroyed because you're exerting your body so much that your period literally just stops? I read something about that a long time ago, but I may be misremembering the details. But I'm split on that one. I want to say, hell yeah, give us our 3 days off. But at the same time, all I know is that my period should not cripple me. And if it does, then That is another issue. And I remember the days when I used to be brought home because my period pain was getting super bad. You know what? As soon as I came back home and I started to rest, I actually started feeling better. And then I thought, well, fuck, I feel better enough to where I can go back to work. But I didn't. If you were to tell me take the days off because we care about your health and well being, and we understand that as a woman you shouldn't be working like that anyway, again, it's cool, but at the same time it isn't, because I'm still part of a team where men are present that don't have that privilege. And even if you guys were to say, well, I wouldn't mind it because whatever reason, I think that's problematic though, because I'm a part of a team, but my team cannot count on me 3 days out of every single month. I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. If you need those days, I think you need to be considered someone with like a medical handicap. Like have a doctor's note to actually justify you being out when you're on your period. You know how some people have like disability or something? If you can like have a doctor be like, yeah, her period gets bad enough to where she's legitimately disabled, that's different. But every woman across the board having that, I don't think it's fair, because like I expressed before, presently my period never gets in the way of my job. Then what if that is a privilege that I have, that oh, my period is not bad enough for me to miss my job, but I'm going to, because now let's say I get paid for that time. How is that fair though on the women who are actual real victims and are suffering from legit complications with their period? See what I mean? So, to give you a definitive answer, because I don't like to be a person who's like bullshit in the middle, there's nothing that I hate more than people who cannot make up their minds. Like, are you coming? Yeah, maybe, possibly, I might. Are you, I don't know, leaving right now? I'm thinking about it. Da 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 da. Tell me a definitive yes or a definitive no. Fuck. That really pisses me off. So, to answer your question, no, Holger. I don't think that 3 days should be a thing for women. And if you need it, you need to be disabled. Like, written off as someone who gets disabled when you're on your fucking period. Again, your period is manageable. You're not supposed to be crippled by it. If you're crippled by it, maybe you should consider finding another fucking job to where it doesn't leave you physically messed up to where you just cannot do your job. There, I said it. That's my definitive answer. So you better believe that if ever there comes a point in which I cannot perform my job like I'm supposed to, I will quit. Like, even if it complicates my life, even if I'm going to lose my home, even if I'm going to go fucking hungry, the last thing I want to do is to make it unfair and difficult on other people. Life is already difficult and sucks as it is. I don't need to be making it worse for others. That's the way I look at it. Let's see. Wow, it's expensive to hire someone, so then they keep quitting. That has to be costly for the company. Oh, yes, it is. And not only that, but it's also costly on those of us who have actually been there, because that means that we have become the reliable members of the team. So, one of the things that I complained to management about was that I felt like I was being held to a different standard from the new people, because we were so afraid of expecting too much of the new people. Like, say, when I train, I like to tell people how things are exactly, what you can expect, what you cannot expect, what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, that type of thing. So when we have people that we like coach and they get intimidated by that, and all of a sudden it's like, I changed my mind, this job isn't right for me. That bothers me because at that moment in time, it's like, okay, I have been able to hold on to my job for so long, but now, in an effort to not scare away our new people, we're not allowed to tell them certain things, and we shouldn't scrutinize them as much. I remember when I was hired, it was pretty competitive. Like, I remember the performance reports that used to come out, and I had to sit down with my manager and talk about what I was doing right, what I needed to improve, like within a week, within a month, within 6 months, 3 months, a year. Now, with the new people, it's like those kinds of conversations, they either happen very seldom or don't happen at all. So I'm like, okay, I remember the stuff that was done to me so that I would become a competitive, relevant employee. Now, the landscape that we're at, it's like, oh, we're trying to not offend our new recruits so that they stay. The fuck? To me, it sounds like you're jumping through some hoops. I'm the kind of person who I value that developmental stage. It's kind of like when you play a video game, when you're level 1, your character doesn't run very fast, doesn't have a lot of strength. If there's a money system in the game, you don't have a lot of money. But then, as you have played the game for like weeks, old missions are now easier. Especially a game like Vice City or San Andreas. I remember those games vividly. They had money systems, you could buy property, all that stuff. I remember how much it sucked to play the game in the beginning because I didn't have weapons, I didn't have armor, I didn't have cars, all of that. I didn't have property. But then as I acquired those things, the game became easier, but difficult in other ways. I feel like people want to start off with the artillery and everything without going through the process that it takes to get to that level. So, yes, new recruit, I am going to make significantly more money than you because Assista knew how to hold on to her job, as opposed to moving from company to company because this other company offered $1 extra. I decided to earn that dollar with time. I don't know. Building up is something that doesn't bother me. To me, it's not a burden. But maybe it's because of the way that I conducted my life that gave me that flexibility. But some people, let's say that you're a single woman with kids, you are desperate to land something that's good to solve a lot of your problems. Well, if you were not prepared to have a child on your own or with support, maybe you shouldn't have had them. Just to give a crazy, extreme, oversimplified example. That's what I'm saying. I make decisions taking into account that my life's circumstances, as I know it today, is not going to be the same next week, possibly, or next year. Gosh, guys, I'm having trouble. Give me 1 second. Oh god, that was bad. Okay. So yes, I do feel like a lot of the people who are quitting, they're quitting because they have unrealistic expectations of what us hiring them is going to do. So in that instance, even though I'm not a company person, like I, I just don't really love the whole corporate America kind of thing. But in that situation, I do understand why some people tend to err on the side of the company and be like, oh, these workers want so much, even though they don't have experience or haven't built their way up to earning more. That type of thing. So I don't know. I just feel like like people are trying to not, what is it, build themselves up. It's like you want to enter and right off the bat have the same benefits as other people who have gone through the process of building themselves up to put themselves in the positions that you meet them with. Something that happened to me was 2 years ago. We hired this one guy who, someone in management was indiscreet, and they disclosed how much I was making, I particularly. And I said, I have never told anybody how much I make. How does this person know? Someone from management had to be the one saying it. And then this guy came to me and was like, the fact that we both have the same job and you make more than me bothers me. And I'm like, first of all, we technically don't have the same job because I'm not just a cashier. I have more skill than you do, I promise you. And on top of that, I have held on to my job long. So therefore, I am going to experience certain, what is it, benefits that you fucking don't, because you just got here 3 weeks ago, but you want to be in the same level as me. I have put the blood, the sweat, and the tears, and the pain physically and mentally into this goddamn place. So yes, I'm going to be a little higher than you, even though we have the same title. But we're not the same. We just are not the same. You don't have the same experience that I have within the company. So like, experience will make or break you. And in my case, it has made me. That's what I'm saying. So little things like that makes me be like, nah, we have it pretty good right now. Hello, Jordan. Periods are an overreaction. This is true. Well, I have to log off. Have a great night, everyone. Have a great night, Hamry. Oh my God, I remember that night so vividly. I was laughing my ass off over the Hamry stuff. Happy Labor Day and careful. Yeah, I definitely need to be careful. It's my mistake. When I started streaming, I told myself I should definitely not run the fan. But I decided to run the fan because I need to have the sensation of like air kind of like brushing against me. Otherwise, I cannot sleep. And even if the air is running, I just feel kind of sticky. Does that happen to any of you guys? Like, I'm a person who drives with the windows down if I can, like more often than not. And if it's raining, I have my air conditioner like on the middle. I need to feel air hitting my face. Something about the windows being up and like the air just being dry and still. Ugh, that's what happens in my room. Like, there's nothing but walls and a window that's closed here. So if I don't have the fan on, I feel weird. I can't handle it. But then the cost is that because I'm talking, it's gonna dry me up, and then I don't catch it soon enough, and then I don't drink water because I'm so fucking focused, and disaster strikes. But hopefully that serves as evidence that I'm actually a human being. So, you know, because sometimes when you're on the internet, you kind of forget that people are people. I tend to be pretty aware of that, but sometimes I read the comment section of some things that people say to other creators and stuff, and I'm like, that's a fucking human being. I mean, what do you expect? People get sick, you know? Hello, how is everything going with you. Not too bad. You know, just everybody's hardships. I can relate to most of them, like, say, the whole stressful times because the economy doing what it's doing and all that. But life is a cycle. This is the season to, I guess, not be prosperous. You know? Thank you for being my best friend. It means a lot to me. The world needs friends. But yeah, thank you too for being around, Jordan. You're definitely one of my more, let's say, I'm gonna call you veteran subscriber. Like, I know you have been around for a long time. You and Holger. I feel like Magismo has been around for a while too, maybe like 4 or 5 years. So yeah, it's actually interesting. It's been a pretty cool journey, and it's definitely a work, what is it? A group effort. I cannot be like, yeah, in this channel, I'm completely self made. Some of the things that I am able to supply these days is actually a consequence of you guys influencing me into those things. So don't feel taken for granted under any circumstance. Well, I hope you guys don't mind, but on my end, it is 1:30 a.m. and I'm not necessarily sleepy, but I can feel myself kind of tripping. And I honestly don't have much else to really add to the original topic. Hopefully, you guys learned something. I definitely learned from this stream, like I usually do. And yeah, I'm going to try to not be a streaming stranger, but it's just hard because sometimes my schedule is not like the most favorable. And the whole reason this stream is happening is because, as you can imagine, I happen to be off tomorrow. But even when I was working the next day, it didn't stop me from streaming. But I'm trying to be a little more responsible. But I am always thinking about the channel because I genuinely love doing this. Like, this is my outlet. I like sharing my thoughts. I like thinking. I like engaging with people, but in a more controlled way. Like, say, from a distance. This is a group. If I had 7 of you present in a room, I probably wouldn't be there in the room with you guys because I feel weird about groups of people. But online like this, it's like, okay, the focus is on me, so I gotta have it together. But in group settings, in person, I'm not good at this shit at all. So, you guys should feel privileged in that regard. That's a little secret about me. I don't think I've mentioned it before with that degree of depth, but yeah, I have said that I don't like groups or crowds, but I haven't really explained why. But yeah, just know that me being this chatty would not happen if, like, the 7 of you who are present right now in the stream were actually like in a room like that, you know? And some of you guys are like silent audience. You don't tend to really interact with what I put out, which is cool. But anytime that you do, it's like it opens a new perspective and opportunity for me. And I think that's what makes me like value the channel so much. It's so cool. I think everybody should try it. If you're into this type of thing, like you have ideas or thoughts, but you don't really know whom to share it with, but you want to share it, I think you should just put it out there and let someone possibly find it, and you might learn something. Alright, guys, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me and tuning in. I wish I could tell you when's the next time I'm gonna do this, but. Alright, guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks for